Hey guys, Jamie here from the Old Creamery and welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to carry on from our last video, which was about collecting Dahlia seed. Then in this video we're going to discuss how we process it. So just to recap, if you haven't seen the first video, throughout the paddock when the flowers have been blooming, we've been pulling off petals which helped them set seed and reduce the chance of rotting. And I'll show you in a minute some of the seeds we've got in our collection this year and the different stages they're at of maturity, and how we've picked them and why we've picked them at that stage. So when you're in your own patch, you can have an idea of where you're at. We also then milked dahlias. Yes, it is a thing. And technically what that means, if you didn't see the video before, is that when we're in the patch, we'll find a way of doing it. We squeeze all the moisture out when they're on the heads, because obviously additional moisture in there when we're having cold, wet, moist mornings in winter as such, doesn't help them dry out and promotes fungal issues. So milky dahlias. Now, if you're only interested in collecting a couple of seeds for the garden and you're not thinking about breeding, I guess, a new variety of dahlia, you probably don't need to go to the extent we are. Whereas we're trying to ensure that we collect as many seeds as we possibly can so that we can, I guess, broaden our genetic pool when we're planting to have a wider selection to pick out the next dahlias we want to keep for our breeding program, which are aligned to our goals. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to jump across and we're going to try some new technology where you get to see me and you get to see what's happening down here too. Alright, so what you'll see on screen at the moment is that I've got a selection of dahlia heads in their different forms. Now, here we can see there's no seed coming in any of them. They never had a chance to mature. And that's likely because they got they weren't pollinated by the bees, but if they had have been and they started to dry out, you can see on here just how squishy that all is. And all these excess petals here have just become, well, they say matted. And the whole thing just breaks away in your hands and there's really nothing in there. You can see it, it's just mash. So if you've got viable seeds in there that we're trying to ripen, they're going to rot before they even have a chance to harden up for the winter as such, or mature. That's probably the best way. I guess our next stage is, and there may be a couple of seeds in here, but you can see it's still very squishy. There's some moisture in there when I squeeze really hard, and I don't recommend squeezing too, but you see I can push in there. I don't think there's any seeds which are viable in there. They may have been viable, they just haven't had enough time to mature. And obviously if stems break while on the plant, that's going to cause the same issue. Now if we just, on here, we can start to see we've got a few more. Like you can see, I'm really pushing quite hard on that, but there's still some moisture coming out along the top. So again, we're getting closer to when we would ideally want to pick. There'll be some viable seeds in there, I'm sure, as when we open them up, but that's when I'm still on the plant and I'm still doing a bit of this. I'm not going to keep saying what I'm doing because I think YouTube might block me. You can see we've got the same here. This is really hard, like I can really squeeze that in my hands and I'm just getting that liquid out now. But when I'm feeling in the patch, I always come along the back here. And if you're feeling in here, like that is really hard, like a tennis ball almost. Or a basketball. You know, anyway, there's no movement in there. And to me, that's probably almost the best time to pick. Just when that stops having excess moisture in there. Now, if you leave them a bit longer, effectively they're going to dry out. And to some people, that'd be the best time to pick them because there's completely bone dry. The downside is, as you can see, there's these seeds sitting right there for us, is that the petals on the outside have already blown away and we've lost seed from our pool, I guess, of collection for this year. So that's going to be a downside to leaving them dry so much, is that effectively you will lose seed. So let's break some of these open and see what we have. So the first one I'm going to break them, these really rich ones, or mature ones, and you can see how easy the whole back just comes off. And we get inside all these petals like tissue paper. But we'll see in here now, we have quite a collection of seed. Now, not all of them will be viable, again. So I'm going to go through and show you what we've got here. So basically, when you're looking, we've got these almost like a teardrop or a pear. That is a viable seed for you. If you pick it up and try and bend it, like you can see it's plump. There's an endosperm in there, and that is completely viable to grow next year. I'm trying to get it to focus for you. Technology is too advanced some days, isn't it? So I'll put him to the side there. I'm good. So we've got another ones. Got quite a few there, 3 or 4. Now, also, these ones also came off a variety called Mystic Sparkler, which, for those of you who know it, is a single flower. So you would expect when you're going through here to find quite a lot of seed, given that the plant was open to the bees and they have that open center. So all of those little petaloids were able to be pollinated. Whereas something as big like your formal decoratives and what we're trying to actually really want the seed from, it can be a little harder till they show the centers at the end of the season, and the insects and the bees have to work that bit harder. And again, all of these plants have been bred by humans to produce traits which are desirable to us, not nature as such. And some of them are really good seed parents, some of them aren't. So you might only get 1 or 2 seeds from some, you might get none. Others are better to make seed versus then the genetics producing the seed, if that makes sense. We got a few more. Now in here, I'm trying to find a couple to show you now, which you may think are seeds, and well, they're not seeds, but they're not viable. Either because the bees haven't pollinated them, or they've been terminated because we picked too early. And you can start to see there's a couple like these little brown specks here. So they look like a seed. They've got the typical end, and they've got the white tip where you can see the endosperm coming out. But they're not viable. There's nothing in them. You can feel when you touch them, they're just pure flat. So you can be easily mistaken, but they are seeds, or viable seeds. Let me get another one in here. Now, I should have brought them. Just push them to the side. Should have brought in a scalpel because I was going to show you another quick way you can check if they're actually viable or not. Is if we break open the seed, I sometimes just bite them open, and then you see that we just squished it. We've got this white. This is the endosperm, so technically that's all of the energy, sugar, and the DNA for a new seedling to be formed. And if you've got that inside, that seed was viable. And it's kind of like, I don't know, a bit pussy. All right, so we move on to this really squishy one we started with, which I don't think there's going to be anything in there. And you can actually start to see if I can get in there. Move the good seeds to the side. You can see this. There you go. So these white bits of seeds, which would have been germinated, but look at that one. That just looks like a mini adult seed. A mature seed, shall we say. But it's just not had the time on the plant. So usually about 4 to 6 weeks it needs to fully develop into a viable seed ready for the next season. Get rid of him. And we'll come into this next one, which is still a bit squishy, but I reckon there might be a couple in there. It starts to feel a bit harder, and you can see straight away I've definitely got some viable seeds in there. Now, if you do harvest them when they're still moist, you do need to obviously separate the seeds and then let them air dry for a couple of days before we put them into brown envelopes or however you choose to store for the winter. It's a bit messy this way. They're quite sticky still. We've got 1 there, 2. We've got a few in here which looks like just haven't had a chance to fully mature yet. Got another one there. So if you get them a bit earlier, as you can see, like this, they're just very moist, and it's a bit of work trying to get them separated. And better. keep doing that one later, but as you can see, there's quite a few seeds in there. I'm trying to find, of course, when you're trying to find what to show you, we're not having much luck getting them, but you'll find seeds which look just like that, but they're not as pointed. They remind me of seahorse eggs, of all things. And if you've ever been to a SeaWorld or places like that, that's sort of the one there. And it's kind of like this, like if you could imagine them all linked together, and you've seen like fish eggs, or not fish eggs, the seahorse eggs, they kind of make this like ravioli kind of shape, and they look just like seeds, but they're not viable. And many people have made a mistake. I certainly have. I kept them all and tried to grow them and got a bit disheartened. Like, to me, I wouldn't keep this one. You can see it's a bit pale. Just hasn't had time to fully mature on there. So I would have kept this one going for a couple of weeks longer on the plant, even over 2 weeks. And it would have finished and we would have had a few more viable seeds out of it. But there's still some there. And I can't tell you who it came from because at the moment, most of our paddock has got desirables. So we actually went through, I think, and I might have said in my last video, we went through and we actually removed probably nearly every single single and everything we didn't want to breed from the paddock this year. So that all of our seeds would come from those we wanted to breed with. So in doing that, we've probably eliminated the need, well, I think so at this point, to go through and name who's who in the zoo from the seed heads we've collected. I know many people do, but it was a job I decided this year I wasn't really going to not waste time, but invest my time, shall we say, in doing so, because ultimately any single seed can be a good or a bad new variety. And just because I know it came from, I don't know, Coral Jessie, for example, there's no guarantee it's going to look anything like its parent because of how the genetics work. So you can see, even though this is still green, and it is still a bit moist, I might maybe give it another week. But it's a lot easier to separate those seeds out, and they just feel different. You'll soon get, once you start planting a patch, there's a few here which are, there we go, they've not developed. This is really harder than I expected, you know, trying to do on screen and off screen. So my apologies, and thank you for bearing with me. But you can see in here, so there's quite a few which still are maturing, and we've stopped that process. Obviously now we've picked them. Now if you have picked them and you start to open them up and you think, oh, I could leave that a bit longer, and this side there's actually quite a few more, you can put them in water, and they will continue to mature. You're still not going to get as obviously as best result as you will leaving them on the plant, because water is good and it's going to help them, but it's not going to give them the food and nutrition they need to keep forming seeds. You could try putting some plant food in the water. I'd say very, very mild, but that could be something you could try. I haven't thought about doing that, but when we're dealing with the numbers of plants we're dealing with too, we're not trying to keep seeds from a couple of plants. So, but it's a consideration. Everything in life's about trialing, isn't it? So trial and error. Nothing in there. You can see what there was some which never matured. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. And we'll see what the spoils are at the end. Sometimes I think we should do this live because I feel like I just waffle on about stuff because I'm not sure what you'd like to learn about what we're up to. Whereas if we're doing this live, I could be answering some questions. I guess if you are watching in the Southern Hemisphere, our Dahlia workshop in Melbourne at Halloween Gardens is on the 15th of June. I think we've got a couple of spots left, only maybe 2, which is fantastic. So thank you to those who are coming along. We're looking at also doing a non-farm workshop in July with the Dahlia Society, our local one. So that will be free for members. And then in the local community, we have the Society's tuber sale in October, I'm going to say it is. And again, we're looking at putting a bit of a workshops together for that as well, because we'll be just at the start of the growing season for us down here in Victoria, Australia. So if you're local and you'd like to come along, keep those dates in your diary. I think it's like the 19th of October. But that will be on our Instagram and YouTube and everywhere else as we get closer. All right, I think that is virtually all my spoils. This is quite a good little producer, this one. And the seeds are quite plump. So, on I guess the farm update for you as well is that we've just started probably 3 weeks ago with some cuttings. So we've gone through the patch and picked flowers which were really popular with the florists, as well as for my own bunches, or ones I really liked. And I've taken cuttings of them so that next year I've obviously got a bigger stock. One of them in particular was Ned Kelly. I just love the maroon, dark purple tinge red color it is. And it was really good for us in Australia because we have Anzac Day, which is a bit like Remembrance Day. And we celebrate that on the 25th of April. So we still had, and they were perfect in replacement, obviously, Remembrance's poppies. But we used them in a lot of wreaths, and they were really, really nice. And I'm standing here just talking for this whole time, and I've just realized the camera wasn't recording. So you're getting my voice anyway, which is good because I've got the second camera. But now I feel like a bit of a dill. So now you get to see my face because I thought I'd put it back on while we're finishing here. But luckily I think I've done most of what I just talked about actually on the screen underneath here. And I really think I'm at the tail end now because all I can see now is seeds which just didn't have time to mature. And obviously they do mature at the front, at the center, and as they continue to mature as they circle out from the center. God, I'm having a good day today with words, am I? There, so from those couple of seed heads, you can see we've got quite a few viable seeds in there. And as they continue drying out, I'll still try and get rid of all this extra pedaloids. And I'd leave them like this, just to air dry for 48 hours. And once they've time to fully dry out, because any moisture on the outside is what's going to cause them to form mold and ultimately rot, which is obviously not what we want. And if I put them into storage, then like that, then I'm probably not going to have time to check them or anything like that. So 24 hours, 48 hours out here, somewhere which is not going to be windy or breezy because they won't take much and they'll blow away. These non-viable ones. But anyway, there you have it. So in a 101 of how we collect and sort our Dahlia seed by hand, ready for storage. So I hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. And as always, if you do like what we share, please share it with your friends because that's the way we build our channel and your engagement. Have a great day. Thanks for watching our video, guys. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe and the alert button if you want to stay tuned for what's coming up next. Have a great day.